Recently, a drama broke out between music reviewer Anthony Fantano and live streamer LonerBox. When LonerBox's coverage on the conflicts in the Middle East got brought into question online, causing Anthony to weigh in and respond. Anthony went at LonerBox saying he believes that LonerBox refuses to call what Israel's doing in the Middle East a genocide, with LonerBox responding saying he believes that people like Anthony only use the conflict in the Middle East to boost their own self-image, feeling morally superior over others. Hasan also weighed in on everything, agreeing with the sentiments and saying that people like LonerBox defended Israel for the last 2 years, along with stalking and deplatforming pro-Palestine creators. Welcome to the internet versus Anthony Fantano and LonerBox. It starts when Gato Fumador tweets out, "The not really pro-Israel trio. Bombing hospitals is not a war crime guy. Those doctors all lied. The sniped toddlers were probably tweens guy. Dude who stopped doing any even remotely sympathetic coverage of Gaza because his entire audience is Azov Nazis." And then Gato attaches this clip.
And I don't understand why they're targeting even him. I don't understand why they're targeting you. I mean, none of you guys are really pro-Israel, so what's the only commonality is really that you all kind of don't like Hasan for one reason or another.
Along with this screenshot of a Hutch post where he says, "Israel is not trying to murder all Palestinians in Gaza. That's the point. The death count is sobering and horrific, but intent has to matter. If a campaign of genocide was actually what Israel was going for, my friend, the circumstances we see now would be unimaginably worse." Pointing to extremist voices in the Knesset engaging in maniacal rhetoric doesn't negate what's actually happening. Hamas straight up comes out and says, "We want to annihilate every Jew and end the state of Israel." Their attack on October 7th was not a military strike on IDF. It was a full-on genocidal action. There doesn't seem to be any real acknowledgement of this from the folks that keep screaming genocide over and over again. Gato then attaches this clip of LonerBox.
Is that impossible for someone to say?
Way more likely than he's calling a teenager a toddler. That's like so ridiculous.
Why is that ridiculous?
Who calls a teenager a toddler? Obviously, like more than he said, like it was happening often.
It's happening often that he's saying like toddlers, like 3 or 4 year olds are being sniped directly. That's a normal thing in Gaza right now.
I don't know. It like, well, nobody really.
But the images they're showing you, but he's like literally referring to images that he's seen. I don't even think he's necessarily lying. I think when people are describing atrocities and horrors or whatever, yeah, they might sometimes describe like a young person as a baby or a toddler. Yeah, that's not, it's like you can call a fucking 17-year-old a toddler if you're in the in the right mood for it. You know, it's not like an unusual thing to do.
Bro, what?
Yeah,
dude,
sorry.
what?
Shut the fuck up. Bro, you're a toddler to me. Just so you know, from the way you're talking to me, right?
Okay, that's
okay.
fair.
That's not unusual to say that. Okay.
Then he attaches a screenshot of these interactions from Dylan Burns. We're back in October 2023. Dylan quote tweeted someone saying the current death toll in Gaza is 7,028, 40% of which were children, according to the World Health Org. And Dylan quote tweeted it saying, "This would mean roughly 2,800 dead Palestinian children in just over half a month." And he down replies, "Fake numbers." And Dylan says, "How do you know that?" And B says, "Because the source for it is basically Hamas." And Dylan replies, "What would you say to organizations like Human Rights Watch who say the Gazan Ministry of Health have generally reliable numbers?" And multiple other replies that Gato attaches, like someone saying would, Tony saying so Hamas say, Poop saying source of the numbers is Hamas, come on bro, Cartoon saying I have a hard time believing anything Hamas reports, they have every incentive to lie, and Trooper replying, "I'd be interested to know how many of those are 14 to 17 and weapon carrying Hamas fighters." But back to Gato's original tweet, Anthony Fantano gets involved by replying to it saying, "The toddlers guy isn't just a dude doing an elaborate Destiny cosplay parody bit." And Toby Keefe says, "Bro, you know who LonerBox is. You're applying to fucking Gato Fumador. You're deep in the lore." And Anthony replies, "Honestly, I missed this chapter." Yeet then screenshots this interaction and posts it on his page with the caption, "Anthony Fantano takes shots at LonerBox." And Atuka replies with this screenshot of Drake's Instagram post where he just posted Anthony Fantano and a bunch of laughing emojis and captions it, "I love Fantano's iDubbbz appearance bit, but imagine if the mustache was even more cringe." Star quote tweets Yeet by saying, "This is actually just slanderous. If you did any research or listened to anything other than insane anonymous Twitter people, you would know this framing of LonerBox's positions is incredibly dishonest. Anthony Fantano, you should be ashamed of yourself." And Anthony replies, "What are his positions?" And Tyler replies, "Bro said what are his positions after he already slandered him. Leftists are smooth-brained." And Anthony replies, "I need to be more careful making cosplay allegations. It's true." And Shrug says, "Come on, dude. You have a huge following. You have a responsibility to at least try to not be a jackass." Paraglobalism replies to Anthony's original question by saying, "Do you think describing Dylan Burns' audience of Ukrainian Ukraine supporters as Azov Nazis is remotely acceptable? And Anthony replies, I haven't been following Dylan's posts closely or his audience for the past 2 years, honestly. And Paraglobalism says, but you felt fine signal boosting an unhinged ML calling him an Azov Nazi. How is that different than calling a supporter of Palestine a Hamas lover? LonerBox himself then quote tweets Anthony and responds by saying, 1. Support a Palestinian state. 2. Don't like Hamas, Bibi, Hezbollah, or the Houthis. 3. Still have faith in Marwan Barghouti. 4. Don't think it's wise to try and destroy Israel. 5. Enjoy classical guitar and indie/alternative. 6. Never said the N-word. Always up for conversations on stream if you have any more questions, I guess. And then Anthony responds to LonerBox by saying, might want to work this term into the second draft, attaching a definition of genocide, saying the deliberate killing of a large number of people from a particular nation or ethnic group with the aim of destroying that nation or group. And that bastard Squirtus replies, you're aware he basically agrees with what you said and actually put more depth into the conversation, right? Is your head dented in the back? And Anthony replies, I'm being nice. And Squirtus says, how is it being nice by passively signaling that he's not discussing the atrocity of what's happening and making it seem like he doesn't care about this? It's a disgusting thing to do. Peter replies to Anthony by saying, Fantano being a retard. Fantano is another alt-right extremist who switched to the far left when it started being popular on the internet. He's performative because there's no substance. It's all either mental illness or grift. And LonerBox then quote tweets Anthony Fantano with this screenshot saying, fuck. I'm sorry, maybe I can explain. Clueless purity testing retards like you should be avoided like the fucking plague. No amount of placating will ever satisfy you because what you're doing is not politics. The only thing you build with this kind of exclusionary bullshit is a cult. People like this aren't in the conversation out of curiosity or a desire to change anything. The Middle East only exists to them as a means of moral self-aggrandizement, which is why, for all the presence they've amassed on social media, they've been utterly useless for the people they pretend to care about. At best, they may have slightly contributed to boosting Hamas's morale with some mostly symbolic victories in the propaganda war, and given them a reason to keep fighting whilst Gazans pay the price for their actions. You can bully half the planet into screaming genocide and it won't move you an inch closer to solving the conflict. Decolonize yourself, dumb C. And Star replies, Slay King. Gidmore Sun says, as someone who has no context for where the image is from, it's crazy how hard it is for some to just be like, yeah, it's a genocide. More energy is spent trying to excuse yourself on why you didn't say it. And Tummy replies, okay, if he called it a genocide, do you actually think people like Fantano would stop calling people like LonerBox Nazis and paid Israeli propagandists? And Gitmore Sun says maybe, but he didn't, so that's just a hypothetical. Destiny also quote tweets Anthony Fantano and says, people with no understanding of the region having strong opinions on what's going on there. And Anthony Fantano replies to Destiny by saying, your son is a Nazi and hates you. And no one replies, your wife left you. And Anthony says, I'd rather have 100 ex-wives than one Nazi son. David Clark replies, you are such a beacon of morality, bringing up someone's son because he said you didn't know something about a conflict. Get on his stream and prove him wrong. And Anthony says, you want me to be present on this man's stream when he's not even present in his son's life? Sid then tweets out this picture of Anthony and captions it, Anthony Fantano has never once tweeted anything about Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Therefore, according to his own logic, he must be a genocide supporter. Sorry, I don't make the rules. And Anthony replies, and you've never once tweeted about not wanting to suck my cock. So open up, big boy. I don't make the rules. And Malik replies, you're embarrassing yourself. And Anthony says, sorry, I didn't know that's what more likes meant. It's my first day using this application. Ace Mori says, so you're fine with Russia's invasion of Ukraine? And Anthony says, I'm very much against it. The only thing I'm for is Lil Baby Gandhi slurping on my sensory slug. And Eastwood says, by your own admission, not tweeting enough, you are not against it. Why are you not tweeting about an act of genocide, you sick homicidal fuck? And Anthony says, with this reply, I hereby admit I have tweeted enough about it by my own standards. Debate 1. And Eastwood replies, brother, it is so painfully obvious that politics are like clothing to you, something you wear and show off. This is why you would never have a discussion with someone like LonerBox on this issue. You know you'd be exposed as an uninformed retard. It's easier to hide behind memes. Then in an unrelated tweet, Colo is quote tweeting someone talking about botting, and Anthony replies, just listening to a song is botting now? And Are You Serious replies to Anthony with the post that LonerBox made earlier that we read, saying, is this botting, Ant? And Anthony replies, is this some new copy pasta? And Ulysses Thatch Grant says, no, video. It's something that directly relates to you and your lack of progress towards the goal of the ending of this genocide that you believe is happening. Keep virtue signaling to your audience for likes. And Pierce Adrian replies, you don't believe the genocide exists, so your opinion is very invalid here. Then Hasan quote tweets the Gatto tweet that we looked at the very beginning of this video by saying, these guys spent the last 23 months of Israel's genocide defending Israel, stalking and trying to deplatform pro-Palestinian content creators alongside the ADL, only to now try and whitewash their reps and pivot back once the well ran dry. Don't know about the last dude's takes, to be fair. And Hutch replies with the screenshot from Gatto that we already read, saying, your evidence that Dylan was defending Israel is a screen cap of him highlighting how many Palestinian kids had been killed. Brilliant stuff, bud. And do you seriously think his entire audience is Azov Nazis? Pretty wild thing to just casually throw out there, no? And Ogre Boy says, don't know about the last dude's takes, to be fair. If anything, complained that he isn't doing a glowing enough distancing of Dylan from you two. But come on, man, what are we doing here? Not everyone is old enough to remember the Brady Bunch reruns, but you're doing some real Jan Brady shit. And Hutch says, he's pretending to not know who Dylan is because he got caught in a ridiculous lie. While amplifying Gatto's tweet, that is also a lie. The cover you run for this guy is wild. Now, I was out of town last week, but there has been a whole bunch of stuff breaking on the internet. There was a lot happening with Progressive Victory, and then Hasan responding to it, and all sorts of stuff there. That's what Hutch is referencing in the last tweet we just read. A video will be going up on that tomorrow, so subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss it. Shout out to our Tier 3 members, internet representatives, Kiko, Salsao, Dakota's Bandito, and Caps and Crash Out. Thank you guys so much for the support, and I'll see you all in the next episode.